Oh, there it is. Good morning, everybody. Oh, hey, Pitt Danny says, Semper Fi, happy birthday to the U.S. Marines. Ooh-rah, Pitt Danny. I'll have to remember to call my father-in-law and say happy birthday, because we, So, what are we talking about today? Well, looks like they're going to reopen the government. Is that a win? It's not. It's really not. So let's kind of summarize what's happened here. 40 days ago, right? We've been 40 days and 40 nights wandering in the desert without a government, and nope. Everything still seems to be going just fine for me. I cannot restate this often enough or emphatically enough. There is nothing, and I do mean absolutely and literally nothing, that is done currently or can be done generally by government that cannot be done cheaper and better by private industry. I don't care if you're talking about keeping the roads or national security, police, courts, even legislation. Nothing the government does, nothing, can be done. It cannot be done better and cheaper by private industry. The only exceptions to this statement that you might possibly find are those things which government does that should not be done to begin with. Right? Licensure, for example. The government handles licensure. Could that be done better and cheaper by private industry? Well, the correct answer to that is, why is it done at all? The correct answer to that question is another question. Why do we need it at all? And the answer is, we don't, right? And in fact, to whatever extent one might believe that we need licensure, because the defense for licensure is always something along the lines of, well, if people don't have licenses, how will you know that they're competent? Like a doctor or a lawyer, for example. If they don't have a government license, how will you know they're competent? Did they not attend a school which produced a certificate that was, in theory, let's be frank, because there's a lot of suspicion to be cast there, but in theory, a certificate which required the proving of their meritorious academic accomplishment in the field? Does the licensure have such a rigid requirement? No, it does not. It is a fee paid to the government to purchase back rights which were taken from you at gunpoint. Right? So, that the government is reopened is not cause for celebration, not in and of itself. But of course, this means that the Republicans won the standoff with the Democrats to get the government reopened, right? You'd like to think that. But that is also not correct. Our GOP, our Republican members, have committed an incredible and egregious error here. They had a wonderful opportunity, and Donald Trump recognized this and insisted. He made repeated overtures that he wanted to see the filibuster eliminated, which would have been the obvious, clear victory condition. And there are a lot of arguments for a filibuster, which are just intolerable. Let me give you the first and most obvious argument against the filibuster, against preserving the filibuster rule. The idea that the filibuster is a tradition that needs to be maintained for any reason at all, just shut up. The filibuster is a Senate rule. It is a procedural abomination. It is not something that was given to us through the Constitution. And yes, Sergeant Major, every malpractice case should include a review of the school that the bad doctor graduated from. Absolutely. But I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on licensure. That may be worth a show by itself. I've done shows on licensure before. Anyway, the filibuster rule, the various defenses. Let's talk about why people might think we should retain the filibuster. Let me find my notes. Okay, so the defenses of the filibuster. For one, there's always the. I'm so tired of hearing this argument. If Republicans do X, then Democrats will turn it against them. Stop. Just stop. It's a non-starter. It's not an intelligent argument. Okay? That may have been a reasonable position to take on various matters 30 years ago. Maybe. But the Democrat track record is very, very clear. They are not waiting for Republicans to hand them weapons. The Democrats are not interested or constrained by rules of any kind under any circumstance whatever. The Democrat Party and their voter base do not even find it taboo to simply murder their political opposition. And now understand what I'm saying there. Listen to my words very carefully there. I said they do not even find it taboo. Okay, it's one thing to say that some nut job assassinated Charlie Kirk or attempted to assassinate Donald Trump or Brett Kavanaugh or the entire Republican part of the House of Representatives at the Bernie Sanders baseball massacre, right? To say that the Democrat Party and their elected officials are more than happy to not only encourage, but especially in the case of Kamala Harris, who directly funded legal defense for her terrorists, to support, to provide material and financial aid and support to the enemies of the United States of America. It is not only the case that these things are true, but as we saw after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and even on Halloween night, liberals dressing up as Charlie Kirk with a giant gunshot wound in his neck and blood spurting all down the front of a white T-shirt with a classic TPUSA logo across it, very clearly mocking and celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right? What I said is not that Democrats are willing to eschew all the rules and go so far even as to commit murder, but that they do not even find it taboo. A majority of respondents, when asked the question immediately after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, said that more than half said that it would be acceptable for Elon Musk to be assassinated. That number was somewhere around 58, 59%. When the question was asked about the assassination of Donald Trump, that number climbed to nearly 70%, nearly 3/4 of all self-identified Democrat respondents to the question. Would it be okay? Would it be acceptable if Donald Trump were assassinated? They responded, yes. They celebrated Kirk's assassination. When asked the question about their position on it, they said things like, well, political violence is always wrong, but Charlie Kirk was a terrible person, so I'm glad he's dead. Or I don't feel that bad about it. It's always wrong, but no. Here's something you need to understand about that word always. Always is an absolute. It is not subject to gradation. If a thing is always wrong, there is no but, there is no exception, there is no caveat. Now, a thing can be sometimes wrong, but not always wrong. For example, the killing of another person can be almost always wrong or usually wrong, but you'll note I didn't say always wrong. I said almost always, usually, right? Not the absolute unsubject to gradation, but there are occasions, act of war, actively engaged in the conduct of war, self-defense. You are never morally wrong if you kill another person in the defense of yourself or others, in fear of great bodily harm or death, and in my opinion, but not always in the opinion of the law, in the defense of your property. Right? There we have shades of gray. We have gradation. But a person who says it's always wrong, but Charlie Kirk was a bad person, understand what they're saying. They do actually mean that it is always wrong to kill a human being. But you are not a human being. You are other. You are less than. This is a classic argument of the Democrat. They're a big fan of this argument. They like to scream and point at Republicans, say, "Oh, you're othering trans, you're othering gays, you're othering blacks, blah blah blah. You're making them less than. You're dehumanizing them." It was the Democrat Party that argued that blacks can be slaves because they're not people in the same way that white people are. That was, in fact, the argument made by them. That argument was defeated through legislation, argument, and, a fucking civil war. And here we are today. Today, the Democrat argues that babies are not people, and so it's acceptable to kill them for the purpose of convenience because they're not people. They are making the exact same argument in support of the assassination of political opposition. Right? So all that to provide this context. When the argument for retaining the filibuster is that if you abolish the filibuster today, the Democrats will use that weapon against you in the future. I'm sorry. Did we all forget when Harry Reid ended the filibuster for judicial appointments so they could pack the court with the precise leftist judges that keep protecting criminals, releasing criminals, protecting hostile foreign immigrants, returning previously deported hostile foreign immigrants back to the United States to commit more and more crimes, right? Mitch McConnell said when Harry Reid pushed that through, listen, we're going to make this bite you in the ass. And we did. Not quite as well as I would have hoped. I'm not a big fan of Amy Coney Barrett, and I'm only slightly more salient on limp-wristed Judge Kavanaugh, but they are at least ostensibly conservative. Right? I mean, I was disappointed. Gorsuch has turned out better than I had hoped. Barrett and Kavanaugh, they are not strong conservatives. Trump could have given us the next oh God, I almost said Thomas Sowell. Now the name escapes me because I've got Thomas Sowell in my head. But somebody in the chat help me out. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway, so what has happened is they've managed to keep the filibuster intact. 8 Democrats have broken from their compatriots, from their comrades, to vote for the CR, and it took 8. Right? We've got 53 Republicans, so we needed 7. Except Rand Paul is a hard no, and I ain't that mad at Rand Paul for being a hard no on this. Oh, Clarence Thomas. Yes, thank you, Uncle Steve. Clarence Thomas. I don't know. That's why I got confused. I got Thomas Sowell stuck in my head, and then when I tried to get away from that excellent Marine, by the way, Thomas Sowell, trying to say, Thomas. No. Okay. Yes, Justice Clarence Thomas is the one that I was thinking. He could have given us another Clarence Thomas. Would have been magnificent. But you just broke my train of thought. Where was I? So because Rand Paul was voting no, we had to get 8 Democrats, and we got them. We got our 8 Democrats, and I want to talk about the psychopathy and hypocrisy of their positions. So understand what's happened over the last 40 days. On no less than 14 separate occasions, the Senate Republicans have brought the vote to approve the continuing resolution and reopen the government. It is important to understand this is a clean CR, which is to say that they tried to vote on funding the government at the original existing funding levels without increasing, without additional appropriations, nothing being added. Just, hey guys, we all agreed that we should fund the government, and we're going to do that again. We're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that because nothing changed. It changed nothing. Kept the government open, kept the government wasting money, kept the government puttering along in exactly the way that it has been failing to do anything of value for quite some time. But here's the other thing that you have to remember. Because it is a clean CR to continue government at the levels at which it was already being funded, what the Democrats unanimously voted 14 times against is a funding bill for which less than a year ago, while Joe Biden was still the president, they voted unanimously for. The current levels of funding that would have been continued by the new continuing resolution, being that it is a clean CR with no addendums or additions, is the funding that the Democrats voted for previously. The reason that's important to understand is because it means that the Democrats chose to close the government specifically to hold hostage the funding and benefits of Americans so that they could demand additional carve-outs, so that they could demand more concessions from the Republicans. Now let's talk about what those concessions were. We've covered the whole thing about the Democrats trying to fund healthcare for illegal aliens. Now, the way they keep framing it is that millions of Americans are about to lose healthcare or see their healthcare premiums increase. And that's the fault of the Republicans. Okay, let me tackle a couple things there. I've got articles, but I can drop links in the description if you want to go read them. But let's tackle a couple of things there. The illegal aliens. They keep telling us over and over again that illegal aliens are not eligible for access to Medicaid or for marketplace plans through the Affordable Care Act. That's true. That is true. But Saying that McDonald's sells cheeseburgers is not the same as saying that McDonald's does not sell chicken sandwiches. I stopped by McDonald's yesterday. Guess what I ate? A fucking chicken sandwich. So the way they are laundering your money here, and it's especially this is especially pernicious in California, is that there are state programs like Medi-Cal in California, which do in fact extend government paid, government subsidized, or entirely paid healthcare benefits to illegal aliens. That's one way that they do it. Now, when they do that and the Medi-Cal system falls short of its funding requirement, they bill the federal government to make up that shortfall. And the way they bill it is they bill that through Medicaid, through federal Medicaid. They get a subsidy from the federal government to subsidize their state Medicaid program. And then that money gets laundered. Oh, well, we keep those funds separate. Bullshit. That's not possible. Money is fungible. Right? Well, let me ask you this question. You've got a main checking account that your paycheck is automatically deposited into, and you're savvy and a little bit disciplined, and so you've got a couple of savings accounts set up, right? So you got one that's for your vacation fund, one that's for your emergency fund, and one that's for, I don't know, your kids' college savings, right? And every month, X comes into the main checking account, and then 25% of that is distributed through your 3 savings accounts. And that money is kept separate because you know that you want to hit, this target for the emergency fund, this target for the college fund, this target for the vacation fund. And so all the money is kept separate so that when you buy groceries, gas, pay the rent, right, whatever, go out to the movies, whatever, in your normal day-to-day life, you're not dipping into the money that's there for college emergency vacation. Okay. And then, I don't know, you hit a deer and smash the front end of your minivan to pieces. And, you've only recently gotten into this level of discipline, so you don't have enough cash in the main checking account because you just paid the rent and everything. So you reach over and dip into the college fund or the vacation fund to fix the car. It really is that simple. That you have bookkeeping to divide up the use case intents and purposes of funds within your own accounts does not mean that those funds are actually divorced from one another. The entity that commands the funds is the only factor that is salient to that conversation because those funds are fungible. Right? So, making that more concrete, if Medi-Cal is over budget and their budget includes citizens and non-citizens, and they are not subsidized, then they have to choose one of those 2 categories to reduce. Now, obviously, and that's a big fucking if, the non-citizens are not eligible to vote on who gets to be the decision makers and control the strings of the purse in that organization, then obviously, especially when you're talking about a Democrat being motivated, the non-citizen is going to be the one that's cut first. Because as much as they want to centralize power through attracting a large number of hostile foreign invaders into their blue sanctuary states in order to corrupt and bastardize the census and acquire several more illegitimate seats in the House of Representatives. As much as they'd love to do that, they still need to stay in power. And so they still need their local voters to be the ones who are voting for them. And they still need to at least maintain some air of credibility to the claim, the illegitimate claim, that they are not shoveling federal tax dollars directly into the pockets of hostile foreign invaders. Right? that means that if a subsidy is going into Medi-Cal and Medi-Cal has any benefits whatsoever going to illegal immigrants, then in fact, yes, federal tax dollars are funding the health care for hostile foreign invaders. Now, that's the layout on the whole question of illegal immigrants being funded by American taxpayer dollars, by federal tax dollars. Yes, it is absolutely the case that part of what they're arguing for is to remove provisions from the One Big Beautiful Bill, which prevented federal tax dollars from going to fund illegal immigrants receiving medical care. Okay, so that's handled. Yes, the Democrats are holding out, closing the government, shutting down food stamps, threatening the Affordable Care Act provisions for otherwise legal Americans, and threatening the pay of federal workers, military, veterans, Social Security recipients, and everybody else. Everybody who's being told that the Republicans are threatening your whatever benefits. No, the Democrats are holding your benefits hostage so that they can give more of your money to illegal aliens. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the Affordable Care Act provisions. They've told you over and over and over again that millions of Americans will see their premiums increase or even lose health care coverage because the Affordable Care Act subsidies are about to expire. It's on the reading list, guys. Robert A. Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land. Jubal Harshaw explains to Michael Valentin Smith they're going to meet with the UN, and Michael Valentin Smith is going to be represented to the UN as an ambassador, the ambassador from the planet Mars. They make up a flag. It's completely out of their own head. And Smith is concerned that what they're doing is dishonest. And Jubal Harshaw explains to him, listen, Michael, you're the only human who was ever born on Mars. The native population does not make a claim of ownership or rulership there, right? And you are here and no one else from that planet is. You are as close a thing as there can be to a sovereign or an ambassador from that planet. And the best way to lie is to tell the right amount of truth unconvincingly. When the Democrats tell you that the Affordable Care Act is about to expire and millions of Americans are going to lose their health insurance or lose their subsidy for health insurance, that is technically true. Because in 2021, under the leadership of Joe Biden, extended subsidies were enacted that extended the offering of subsidy for your health insurance all the way up to people earning at 400% of the poverty level. The emergency provision of the Affordable Care Act that is about to expire will strip the subsidization of individual, privately owned, non-employer provided health insurance plans from people who are earning between $150,000 and $250,000 a year. The health insurance plans for people earning between $150,000 and $250,000 a year cost the same as the health insurance plans through the Affordable Care Act as people earning $0. The difference is if a health insurance plan costs $20,000 a year and you make between $150,000 and $250,000 a year, the government might chip in $5,000, bringing your premium down to $15,000 for the year. if you are below 50%, I'm sorry, if you're below, I believe it's 200% of the poverty line, then you're getting fully funded. So people making between $150,000 and $250,000 a year will have to pay an extra, $100 a month? $300 a month for their health insurance. That's what's on the line. The poor, pitiful, poor people who don't pay for their health insurance at all because we fund it entirely, nothing changes for them. They'll still get between $20,000 and $40,000 a year of government subsidy to pay for health insurance premiums for health insurance plans that they don't need. Let me remind you, we're talking about health insurance plans which include maternity coverage required by law for single men. I'm sorry, what? What? That's right. If I were still in my 20s, unmarried, right, trying to chase my dream, however, and the government requires me to buy health insurance, it also requires me to pay for maternity coverage for myself, right? Remember, the maternity care that you as a man are required by law to pay for in order to buy health insurance today only covers you if you get pregnant. It doesn't cover your girlfriend if you get her pregnant. She has to have her own health insurance for that. Right? This was part of the original Affordable Care Act plan because it's not fair that women have to pay for getting pregnant. Okay, let me clarify something else for you real quick. No woman ever has to pay for being pregnant. If a woman has her own health insurance that has to cover her pregnancy at her own expense, she has made the wrong choice at every step in her life. She has failed to thrive. And I am not a fan of subsidizing the poor choices of immoral and incompetent people. Make better choices. That's simple. So, but the more salient point to the conversation we're having today is that you need to understand that when they say that Trump is about to strip the Affordable Care Act away from American citizens, that only applies to people in the roughly 400%, 3 to 400% of the poverty line income earners. So people who are earning between $150,000 and $250,000 a year are going to see their health insurance premiums increase marginally. And that's another thing. They keep saying that insurance premiums are going to increase. That's true. However, saying that insurance premiums are going to increase as a result. Be Controversial says, I saw someone complaining their $90 a month insurance is going to $2,100 a month. I would bet that person is earning between $80,000 and $90,000 a year, maybe as high as $100,000 a year. Be Controversial. And what they mean is their government subsidy is about to go from, the government is about to stop paying $2,010 a month for their health insurance. The fact is that nobody's premium is changing. Right? If your monthly premium, if your subsidy goes away, Let's say your premium is $1,000 a month and you pay $90 a month. Your premium is still $1,000 a month. If you only pay $90 a month, that means the rest of us are paying the other $910. Your premium didn't change. What changed is your sugar daddy got tired of your bullshit and he cut your dumb ass off. And please believe, if you're getting your health insurance subsidized through the government, which is a little less than half of Americans today, because of course you've got people earning above the 400% cap, and then you've got a lot of people, not most anymore, but a lot of people are still getting their health insurance through their employer. But if you're getting the Affordable Care Act credits to subsidize your health insurance, please understand this. I am tired of your shit. Right? I do, in fact, want you to pack your shit and move out of my guest room. Right? My sofa is starting to smell like your ass. I need you to go wash yourself and get a job. And, in fact, take the sofa with you. Just go. I'll buy another sofa. Just go. We're done here. So, yes, St. Michael, that is correct. But I don't want to dig into that too much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Yeah, I still got to wrestle a ladder into the back of my truck and get down the road to go do a contract this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there, guys. Thanks for watching this morning. We appreciate it. I will close reminding those of you who are still watching on YouTube that you need to get over to Rumble. We're still staying on YouTube. We're still monetized on YouTube. We're in the partner program over there, but we're focused on growing on Rumble. If you haven't already, make sure you download the Rumble app. It's free, simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content you want. Once you've got it, search for my channel and hit follow. That way, you'll get notification every time we go live. No missed shows, no extras. You can grab it right now using the link in the description or the pinned chat. Download it to your phone. You're ready to go. If you prefer watching on the big screen, Rumble's on all the major streaming devices and smart TVs. I've got it on my Apple TV, for example. Just search for Rumble, follow the channel, and be part of the action. That gets you in the door. If you're over there watching on YouTube right now, watching for free, you can come over to Rumble and you can still watch for free on Rumble. Here's the difference. If you're watching on YouTube, and you're live chatting, etc., then you're missing something. Because if you come over to Rumble, watch live, and leave a comment in the chat, then you become eligible to receive the free random giveaways when I buy people memberships. I'll give, like, Be Controversial, just got a free 1-month subscription to Rumble Premium and the Brushfire Mind. That means Louder with Crowder Backstage, Tim Pool Uncensored, Russell Brand, Salty Cracker, Dr. Disrespect, all those guys, right? I just gave Be Controversial a free pass to go watch all their extended content. And more importantly, the Brushfire Mind deep dives. Like we had this Saturday, we had Professor Robinson, my buddy Cade from, God, I've known him since I was in high school, who is a very well-read scholar on the subject of myth and story making, in particular the writings of Vogler and Campbell, and of course the study of the Jungian archetypes. We did a deep dive. We went 4 hours deep on what the monomyth is, how it applies to philosophy, religion, and culture, why it is worth understanding, right? Studying that, if you like movies or television, if you watch story-driven media, having a good grounding in Campbellian, Voglerian, or Jungian archetype, story structure, monomythics, all of that will help you get so much more out of your even fiction media. And it is a great lens by which to understand the psychological development of individuals and of whole cultures and countries. So that was 4 hours that time. That was this past Saturday. Previously, we've done, we do philosophical deep dives, do historical deep dives, and we do on occasion do the odd conspiracy theory. We did a great deep dive on the actual MK Ultra program. We've covered Edward Bernays, Alexander the Great. We've covered the 5,000 years of proto-communist Chinese culture. We covered the French Revolution. Those are heavy hitting and intense deep dives. They're a lot of fun, very informative, and I think you'll enjoy them massively. So if you're still watching on Rumble, or if you're still watching on YouTube, listen, we're going to stay on YouTube, right? War is won when an armed man stands his ground and refuses to give ground. So we're going to stay on YouTube. But that is a logistical position from which we are maneuvering our resources to our actual base of operations, which is now Rumble. So like, share, and subscribe. Share the YouTube show. Build that platform so we can funnel people through the pipeline over here to Rumble. And in that spirit, if you haven't already, I've started producing partially AI created music videos. I write the lyrics for most of them, and then I use AI to craft the music and the video. So these are Brushfire original artwork that we're running. I'm only running those on YouTube for now. I'll start bringing them over to Rumble, and I'm trying to learn how to make use of Spotify with those. And I don't just mean putting them on Spotify. I mean actually putting them there to an extent that they're actually getting some distribution and maybe make a little money. Jiggly Plump says YouTube is for the hot studs. I'm sorry, Jiggly. I'd love to see the little green triangle next to your name there, Jiggly. So, yeah, that's all I've got for today. Help pump the pipeline and grow the channel on YouTube and Rumble. And hell, you guys over on X, you freeloaders are welcome to come over and try your hand. Log in to free account on Rumble. Watch the daily live show at 07:30 every weekday and leave a chat. You got to make a comment in the live chat. And you too could be eligible for a free 1-month premium membership. So thanks for watching today, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.